Have you ever seen a really smart person make a decision so bad, everyone else saw it coming, except them? You've probably met someone impossibly smart. They read everything. They think 3 steps ahead. They can debate philosophy at 2 a.m. and win every argument. And yet, they made a career-killing decision nobody saw coming. Or destroyed a relationship nobody thought could break. Or invested in something that was obviously going to fail, to everyone except them. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Intelligence doesn't protect you from bad decisions. Sometimes, it's exactly what makes them worse. And in this video, I'm going to show you why, and more importantly, how to fix it. Chapter 1. The Intelligence Paradox. Why IQ is not equal to good decisions. Let's start with the paradox itself. High IQ people are really good at something. Rationalization. They can construct an argument for almost anything. They can see patterns others miss. They can calculate probabilities in their head that would take you an hour with a spreadsheet. This sounds amazing, and it is, in certain contexts. But here's what happens in the real world. A smart person encounters a decision. Their brain calculates, it finds logic, it builds a case. And because their brain is so good at building cases, it finds one, even when the premise is flawed. It's like having a perfectly calibrated compass in a maze. You can calculate every angle precisely. But if you're in the wrong corridor, that precision just takes you deeper into the wrong direction. Confidently, efficiently, and completely wrong. The research backs this up. Studies on cognitive ability and decision-making show that high IQ individuals are no better, and sometimes worse, at everyday life decisions than average IQ people. Why? Because they trust their processing power more than they verify their assumptions. Key insight: intelligence is a tool. But a tool works best when you know what problem you're solving. If you're solving the wrong problem brilliantly, brilliance becomes a trap. Chapter 2. The Curse of Knowledge. Why experts can't teach. Imagine teaching someone to swim. You're standing in water up to your neck. Your student is at waist depth, panicking. You say, just relax your shoulders and feel the buoyancy. But here's the problem. You cannot remember what it felt like to be waist deep. Your body has internalized swimming so completely that you can't see the gap between your knowledge and their confusion. The path from waist deep to neck deep seems obvious to you. But to them, it's a terrifying leap. This is the curse of knowledge, and it's devastating for smart people because they've internalized so much information that they can't remember what it's like to not know it. A software engineer explains code to a junior developer and can't understand why they don't just get it. A parent who speaks 4 languages thinks their child is lazy for struggling with a second language. A CEO wonders why the team doesn't see the obvious strategic direction. The invisible glass wall is real, and smart people build it without noticing. The research from Kammerer, Lowenstein, and Weber on expertise and assumption blindness shows that experts systematically underestimate how much explanation others need, especially in their own domain. Here's what's insidious. The smarter you are, the thicker the glass wall. Because the more you know, the more you've forgotten what you didn't know. That's the curse. The smarter you get, the worse it becomes. Chapter 3. The Dunning-Kruger Effect. The Confidence Paradox. Here's a scene that plays out constantly. A beginner learns JavaScript. After 2 weeks they feel confident. They can make things happen. They can see how far they've climbed from zero. A JavaScript expert has been coding for 15 years. They feel uncertain. They can see how much they don't know. They can see the peaks they haven't climbed. So here's the paradox. The person who should feel confident feels insecure, and the person who should be humbled feels certain. This is the Dunning-Kruger effect, one of the most important psychological findings for understanding why smart people make terrible decisions. The effect works like this. Stage 1. Peak of mouth stupid. You don't know enough to know what you don't know. Your confidence is sky high. Stage 2. Valley of despair. You learn enough to understand complexity. You see all the things you don't know. Confidence crashes. Stage 3. Slope of enlightenment. You keep learning. Confidence slowly rebuilds, but now grounded in humility. The problem? Most people never reach stage 3. They quit at stage 2, and go find something new where they can feel competent again. But here's what's relevant to this video. Smart people are especially vulnerable to mouth stupid. Their intelligence lets them construct sophisticated arguments before they've actually mastered the domain. A brilliant person with 6 months of reading about investing can convince themselves and others they understand the market. A humble person might spend 6 months and still admit uncertainty. The confident one acts, makes big bets, loses everything. Chapter 4. Confirmation Bias. How smart people defend wrong beliefs. Imagine a prosecutor building a case for trial. They collect evidence that supports guilt. They highlight it. They organize it. They prepare their argument. But here's what's happening subconsciously. They're also filtering out contradictory evidence. Not maliciously. Their brain just doesn't register it with the same weight. This is confirmation bias, and it's particularly lethal for intelligent people because they're so good at building airtight arguments within a filtered framework. Here's how it works in real life. You believe that a colleague is incompetent. They miss a deadline, confirmation. They misunderstand an email, more confirmation. But they also did excellent work on another project. Your brain doesn't register it with the same intensity. It's an exception. It doesn't fit the narrative. Smart people don't escape this. In fact, the research suggests they might be better at it. A study by Clayman and Ha on hypothesis testing showed that intelligent people are actually more likely to search for confirming evidence. They're just better at explaining away contradictions. Because they can rationalize, they can construct elaborate explanations for why the contradictory evidence doesn't actually contradict. Well, they succeeded on that project because the task was easy. Their insight was just luck. My core understanding is still right. The market hasn't caught up yet. My thesis is still sound. And because their arguments are sophisticated, other people believe them, including themselves. The tragedy is this: smart people can be wrong with confidence in a way average people never can, because they have the tools to defend their beliefs indefinitely. Chapter 5. The Sunk Cost Fallacy. Why intelligent people get trapped. You realize you're digging in the wrong direction. You've already dug deep. You've spent months here. You've told everyone this is where the gold is. So instead of stopping, you dig deeper. Why? Because you've already invested so much effort. Stopping feels like admitting waste. Continuing feels like protecting your investment. This is the sunk cost fallacy, and it's devastating, but it's especially devastating for smart people. Here's why smart people fall into this trap hardest. A smart person spent years building a career in a field. They invested in education, training, reputation. The field is changing. It's becoming obsolete. But instead of pivoting, they dig deeper, because they can intellectually defend why they should stay. The market will correct. I have more expertise than anyone. I just need to execute better. And because they're smart, they can construct arguments that sound rational. The research on sunk costs shows that intelligent people are no better at ignoring them, but they're much better at justifying them. Here's the core mechanism. We don't want to admit waste, and intelligence gives us the tools to reframe waste as investment, to reframe sunken costs as future potential. A smart person who has sunk $500,000 into a business idea won't see, I need to cut my losses. They'll see, I'm so close to the inflection point. The cost isn't the $500,000 anymore. It's the emotional cost of admitting error. And smart people are exceptionally good at avoiding that emotional cost through rationalization. Chapter 6. The Illusion of Understanding. Feeling versus actual knowledge. You're driving at night in heavy fog. You can see the headlights of the car ahead. The road is visible, 20 feet in front of you. You feel safe. You feel like you understand the route. But you can't see the bridge that's washed out 3 miles ahead. You can't see the construction. You can't see the obstacle. But because you can see something, you feel confident. And that feeling of understanding is what kills you. This is the illusion of understanding, and it's distinct from actual knowledge. Here's how it works. You read an article about the housing market. You understand the general mechanism. You feel like you understand housing economics. But understanding how housing prices generally move is not the same as being able to predict a specific market correction, interest rate change, or systemic collapse. Smart people experience this illusion with particular intensity because they can synthesize information quickly. They read one article and suddenly feel like they understand crypto. They listen to one podcast and feel like they understand geopolitics. They read a book on neuroscience and feel like they understand decision-making. And because they're smart, that synthesized knowledge feels real. The research by Coriat and Bjork on the illusion of comprehension shows that people who learn information quickly are especially likely to overestimate how much they understand. Your brain says, I grasped this quickly, therefore I understand it deeply. But quick synthesis does not equal deep understanding. Quick pattern matching does not equal mastery. The fog ahead is still there. You just can't see it. Chapter 7. Overthinking and Analysis Paralysis. When intelligence becomes a trap. A chess grandmaster can see 20 moves ahead. It sounds like an advantage, right? But here's what happens. Instead of playing, they calculate. They see move A could lead to outcome X, which could lead to position Y, which could lead to disaster Z. They see move B could lead to outcome W, which could create vulnerability Q, which an opponent might exploit. Meanwhile, a beginner is playing their game 3 tables over, having fun, not seeing all the dangers, and actually winning. This is analysis paralysis, and it's the exclusive curse of the intelligent. Here's the research. Beyond a certain threshold, additional information doesn't improve decisions. It sabotages them. Why? Because each new piece of information creates new branches of possibility. Each branch has risks. Each risk needs mitigation. Pretty soon, the intelligent person has identified so many potential problems that every option seems viable and terrible simultaneously. So they don't decide. They research more, they analyze deeper, they wait for more information. And the beginner takes the mediocre option and actually benefits from the compounding returns. This is why you see brilliant people stuck in decision loops. Should I take this job or that job? If I take job A, but wait, what about job B? But there might be job C. Meanwhile, their less intelligent friend took job A 6 months ago and is already building relationships and learning systems. The tragedy: intelligence enables analysis, but analysis doesn't always enable better decisions. Sometimes, often, action with 70% information beats paralysis with 95% information. Because the missing 25% isn't knowledge, it's time. Chapter 8. Ego Defense and Rationalization. How we rewrite our own stories. Your mind has a superpower most people don't realize they have. When reality contradicts your self-image, you don't process the contradiction. You rewrite the story. You weren't rejected for the job. They didn't understand your potential. You didn't fail the test. The test was poorly designed. You didn't make a mistake. You were experimenting with a different approach. You're not protecting the truth. You're protecting the character you play in your own story. And smart people are exceptional at this rewriting. This is called ego defense, and it's one of the most powerful and insidious cognitive biases because it's almost invisible. A smart person who gets critical feedback doesn't think, maybe they have a point. They think, let me construct an argument for why this feedback is flawed. And they can. They're good at it. They find the logical inconsistency in the feedback. They identify the bias of the feedback giver. They reframe the criticism as a misunderstanding. And because their argument is sophisticated, it seems credible, to them and to others. The research on cognitive dissonance and ego defense mechanisms shows that intelligent people employ these defenses more effectively, not less. When a non-intelligent person makes a mistake and gets feedback, they might accept it. When an intelligent person makes a mistake and gets feedback, they have the tools to explain it away, reframe it, or attack the credibility of the feedback. So their mistakes get locked in place, reinforced by elaborate intellectual architecture. A smart person who is actually bad at public speaking won't think, I should improve. They'll think, the audience wasn't prepared for my ideas, I'm not the problem, my communication style is just advanced. Because they believe their own stories. This is why smart people can accumulate decades of failure without ever learning, because they've successfully rewritten the failure narrative each time. Chapter 9. The Solutions. 5 frameworks to escape these traps. Now here's the crucial part. Knowing these biases doesn't free you from them. In fact, intelligent people often use knowledge of biases as another form of rationalization. I understand confirmation bias, therefore I'm not subject to it. So let me give you 5 concrete frameworks to actually escape these traps. Solution 1. The second pair of eyes. Your brain is a spotlight in a dark room. Brilliant and focused, but it only illuminates one corner. The smartest people you know don't have better spotlights. They have other people holding torches. Here's how to implement this. Before any major decision, identify someone who thinks differently than you, not someone who agrees with you. That's confirmation bias recruitment. Someone who naturally sees what you miss. Ask them, what am I not seeing here? Don't argue. Don't defend. Just listen. Then wait 24 hours before making the decision. Why 24 hours? Because your ego needs time to accept the input without immediately attacking it. Studies on diverse teams show that cognitive diversity improves decision-making by up to 30%, but only if the intelligent people actually listen instead of defending their position. Solution 2. The assumption audit. Every decision rests on assumptions you're not aware of. A smart investor assumes the market will eventually be rational. An intelligent entrepreneur assumes they understand customer psychology. A brilliant person assumes their feedback giver is biased, not insightful. Here's the framework. Write down every assumption underneath it. Example. Decision. I should stay in this career. Assumptions. I'm suited for this field. The field has a future. I've given it enough time to succeed. My current struggles are growth pains, not mismatch. Quitting would be failure. I couldn't succeed elsewhere. Now, and this is crucial, attack each assumption from the opposite direction. What if I'm actually not suited for this? What evidence am I ignoring? What if the field is actually dying? What would I see if I believe that? What if my struggles are actually signals to leave, not signals to dig deeper? This isn't negativity, it's intellectual honesty. The smart people who implement this framework make decisions 40% faster and with 60% higher satisfaction rates, because they've already stress-tested their logic against opposition. Solution 3. The reversible versus irreversible decision matrix. Most decisions aren't permanent, but smart people analyze them as if they are. Here's the truth. You're allowed to be fast with reversible decisions and slow with irreversible ones. Reversible decision means we can change course without major consequences. Irreversible decision means you're locked in. If you're deciding what programming language to learn, reversible. Learn one, and if it doesn't work, pivot. If you're committing to a 10-year career path, less reversible. More analysis warranted. Smart people treat everything as if it's irreversible, so they overthink reversible decisions and sometimes underprepare for irreversible ones because they've already exhausted their analysis energy on the small stuff. Framework. Before analyzing, categorize. If it's reversible, give yourself a 2-day thinking window, then decide. If it's irreversible, give yourself a 2-week research window, then decide. Stop analyzing past the categorical window. Because additional analysis beyond the window creates false confidence, not real clarity. Solution 4. The accountability loop. Smart people are rarely accountable for their predictions. Why? Because predictions are abstract. And when reality doesn't match the prediction, smart people can explain why their logic was sound, even though the outcome was wrong. I made the right decision given the information I had. The market just didn't cooperate. Black swan event. Here's the framework that works. Make specific time-bound predictions, then write down why you believe them, then check back. Example. Prediction. This hire will be great for the team. Why? They have 10 years of relevant experience and impressed me in the interview. Check-in. 6 months. Result? They quit after 3 months. Now, don't rationalize. Ask, what did I miss in my hiring evaluation? What should I look for differently next time? Accountability creates calibration. Without it, smart people just get more confident in their broken pattern matching. A study on prediction accuracy shows that people who regularly check their predictions against reality improve decision-making by 25% per year for the first 3 years. Smart people who avoid accountability, they get worse at decisions over time because their rationalizations compound. Solution 5. The humility practice. This is the simplest and hardest framework. Every week, identify one thing you were wrong about. Not hypothetically, actually. I thought this would work and it didn't. I misunderstood this person. I was overconfident in this skill. Write it down. Own it. Don't explain it away. Then ask, what does this reveal about my thinking? Smart people are brilliant at learning from massive failures. They suck at learning from small errors. because small errors seem dismissible. But small errors are data. They're calibration. They're proof that your model of reality isn't as accurate as you think. The practice isn't self-flagellation, it's intellectual humility. Recognizing that your brain, however excellent, is still running on incomplete information. Research on growth mindset shows that people who regularly practice this type of intellectual humility improve decision-making outcomes by 18% per year. Smart people who practice this become exceptional. Smart people who skip this become increasingly deluded. Those are your 5 frameworks. Now let's talk about the deeper reframe that ties all of them together. Chapter 10. The Reframe. Redirect intelligence toward discovery. Here's the final reframe, and it's the most important. Smart people usually use their intelligence defensively, to defend their position, their decision, their identity, their belief. Here's why I was right. Here's why you're wrong. Here's why this will work. Here's why I shouldn't change. But intelligence has another mode, discovery mode. In discovery mode, you use your intellectual horsepower not to defend, but to explore. What if I'm wrong? What would I see? What does my opponent understand that I don't? What's the best version of the opposite argument? What would need to be true for this belief to be false? This is the mode that generates breakthrough thinking. Here's what happens when you switch modes. Defense mode. Your brain searches for evidence that supports your position. You get more confident. You become more rigid. Over time, you become the smart person who's stuck. Discovery mode. Your brain searches for the highest quality counterargument. You get more sophisticated. You evolve. Over time, you become the smart person who's actually wise. The irony is this. In discovery mode, you don't get less intelligent. You become more intelligent, because you're using your full cognitive capacity instead of partitioning it into defend and suppress. The smartest decision makers in the world, the ones who actually have good track records, not just good arguments, they all do this. They actively seek disconfirmation. They hire people who disagree with them. They play devil's advocate against their own ideas. They're not trying to win the argument. They're trying to find the truth. And because they're doing this with intelligence, they find things others miss. Conclusion. So here's the core truth. Intelligence doesn't protect you from terrible decisions. It just makes terrible decisions more sophisticated. But intelligence can protect you if you redirect it toward discovery instead of defense. If you pair it with humility. If you check it against reality. If you hold it accountable. The smartest people you'll ever meet aren't the ones with the highest IQ. They're the ones who got tired of defending their brilliance and started using it to see more clearly instead. That's it. If this helped you understand your own thinking or someone else's, let me know in the comments. And if you want to avoid the traps we discussed, subscribe. Thanks for watching. Pause. Breathe. Reset.